I want to talk first of all about AB 396, which is about ADUs, which stands ADUs. For those of you who don't know, everyone in California knows what an ADU is, but here in Nevada, maybe not so much. That's an accessory dwelling unit. So tell us about this. Tell us what's happening here in Nevada.
This is Las Vegas Real Estate Now with local real estate expert Harvey Blankfeld.
So ADU, accessory dwelling unit, is typically where you see a home, usually a little older, and then in the back, someone will build like a small 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom.
Right.
Now, some developments now will, do kind of cluster housing. Well, you'll sort of have a house and then a house very close to the other one. But, if you look at, the idea is you've got an older home, you could be on 0.25, could be on 0.5 acre, and you cram a house into the backyard.
Yeah.
If you do it right, it's elegant, it's fine. This is a concept to basically build within the builds. So Instead of finding 100 contiguous acres to put in a bunch of 1,600-foot dwellings on 0.1 acre, you basically it's infill.
Yeah.
And what has happened throughout the western United States and now Nevada is usually the state government comes in and says, we think this is a good idea, and here's the rules for it. What then the fight is, you're going to have the local ordinances, the local cities, which has always been the problem because it's not in my backyard stuff, NIMBY.
Right.
So if you look at, let's go to a place that most people in Las Vegas are familiar with, Huntington Beach.
Okay.
Right? Newport Beach.
Right.
Kind of places. Those types of places, you can easily put a little unit in the backyard because the weather's so lovely.
Right.
And if this local city argues with it, then you end up with some towns that'll say, look, there's no more development within the development.
Okay.
And some towns adopt it and take on more. And so what you're seeing throughout the western United States is the capital, the state, will tell the local towns, we're going to override you, and you can't have those rules anymore.
Right.
Because we need more housing. And then it's a big argument, and then everybody has a good time.
So here in Clark County, there's a rule, a code issue or rule or however you want to call it, where you're not allowed to have any more than one stove per APN. That's like kind of a rule. There is only one exception to that rule, and that's if you keep kosher. Then you can have two separate ones. That's a Clark County rule.
Right.
So, but with an ADU, I want to put a stove in there.
Right.
That's where the fight's going to end up being.
Right. So normally you have these like pool houses that are in the backyard.
Right.
And what you walk in and what you have is a toilet, a sink, electricity for a television. But if they want to cook, they might have a microwave, but they go back into the big house. Well, now you would put a small stove in there and you've got living quarters and then you can rent it, and that's the future. So this is the type of thing, it's going to be a creeping element. So we won't see anything tomorrow, but if you go 5 years from now, eventually people will begin to see the benefit of, a developer will look at you and say, you are on a 0.3 acre lot, your backyard is one big blank space.
Right.
We can easily put, and if you look at some of the designs online now, it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
You walk in, there's an immediate staircase.
Yeah.
And you got downstairs is just the living, TV, couch, sink, stove.
Right.
Upstairs, 2 bedrooms.
Right.
And it's dinky.
Yeah.
But it fits.
Yeah.
I mean, we've all stayed in cabins in the mountains and stuff, and somebody who had a pretty slick idea, and they managed to cram yet another bedroom when you rent an Airbnb at Donner Lake or something.
Don't wake up too fast, you'll bonk your head.
Right. Or you fall down the ladder kind of thing. So it'll have to be ADA and whatnot, and you can do it. You can, I've got an uncle who owns a bunch of Airbnb breakfast, bed and breakfast type things in Utah, and he has all this acreage, and as he comes into more money, he builds another one.
There you go.
And they're all about 50 feet away from each other.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's not forever. Now, if you're a younger person or if you're elderly and you don't have anything but yourself, you don't need much.
Yeah.
But children, younger kids are going to want to rent these in the back. Now, the interesting thing, though, is some of them will be parceled out.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you'll have an APN in the back of your APN.
So you'll actually add another tax ID, another APN.
Yeah, and then you'll have to create an easement to get to the back.
Wow.
Yeah, we just sold a unit in Pahrump and there's 2 or 3 houses on the APN. Each have their own APN.
Oh.
And the lot line is the building wall.
Wow.
0 setback.
Wow.
Yeah, if you fall out of your window onto the ground,
You're in the neighbor's yard.
you're in the neighbor's yard. And
Wow.
there's a tiny common area
Uh-huh.
that surrounds all the units.
Interesting.
Yeah, and your driveway is an easement, perpetual.
Sure.
That gets you into your driveway.
Interesting.
And this, they're building them. They're putting 3 units on
Right.
0.25 acre, 3 houses on 0.25.
Wow.
And you've got your own driveway.
Well, honestly, though,
But hey, if that's all you want and that's all you need,
that's kind of what we need here
Yeah,
a little bit. I mean, it's good. It's a good way to have an entry level housing opportunity for people.
Right.
Get that first step.
so
it's
go
not going
to
to cost
some of
them
these
$600,000.
neighborhoods. Go to the outskirts of town.
Yeah.
You go to the Sunrise Mountain.
Right.
Go to Old Henderson. Everybody's got 0.25 or 0.3.
Right.
And you can, you go to the neighborhood that surrounds UNLV.
Right. Right.
Everybody's got a half acre.
Yeah.
You can easily put a brand new 2-bedroom, 2-bath
Yeah.
in your backyard.
Yeah, and you've seen. I mean, Helene and I used to watch this program called Tiny Homes. I mean, I don't know if you've seen
Yeah.
it. They basically just convert an old, tractor trailer into
Sure.
a home or something like that, and it's built out. It's got a bathroom, it's got kitchen, it's
Right.
got the living room, bed quarters, everything.
If you get that
plop that
built-
in the backyard, boom, done.
You're looking at $800 to $2,000 a month of rent.
Yeah.
You could, a family could subsidize their life.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
just write in the CC&Rs you're not allowed to play Barry Manilow after 10 p.m. That's in the rules.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't. Yeah. Barry Manilow would be a problem after 10 o'clock. That would be a
Right.
problem. Because
Lawrence Welk is banned.
Lawrence Welk. Oh, come on. Really? Lawrence. Carly's like, wait, who? What? That's
But it's tight living quarters. But if you get into the bigger cities, this is how people live.
Well, this is what's necessary right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Berkshire Hathaway came out with a white paper about 6 months ago talking about the idea that we're going to end up seeing a lot of housing go to multi-generation anyway, just because of the cost of housing. It's a necessity, becomes a necessity. And so back in the 50s and early 60s, that was pretty common where multiple generations were living in the same house, because then, even though houses were crazy cheap by today's standards, they were expensive by those standards.
Sure.
It was tough to afford a home back then. They didn't have all the opportunities at that point. So moms, invited the kids to live in the house,
Sure.
and vice versa. So there was a lot of multi-gen going on, and we're probably going to get to some of that too. This is a way to maybe accomplish that without them trying to kill each other.
Right. And what they're going to do is override the zoning. So,
Interesting.
for example, if the city of Las Vegas and then the township of Summerlin says absolutely not, you're not allowed to,
Uh-oh.
the state of Nevada, by statute, will override the local jurisdiction.
Interesting.
That's what's happening throughout
That's
the
what's happening in
Western-
California right now.
Oregon, Washington, it's happening everywhere.
Is that right?
The state, the capital's dictating, we get it, that you're not allowed to do that. So
Right.
they're basically, they're fighting the fight for the families and the developers.
Wow. Interesting. I mean,
And they
look.
just passed it in Nevada.
Yeah, so
So
this
it
is,
won't happen. It's
it's
going
not
to be
going to be tomorrow.
litigated. And,
This is a process.
Yeah.
This is a process that's going to take some
Yeah.
time to get to the point where we start to see it happening.
Yeah.